Good evening. After days of chaos and confusion, there is a victory of sorts this evening for London's A-level students whose results were downgraded. The government made an embarrassing U-turn and said students can use the grades estimated by their teachers rather than the controversial algorithm which has seen thousands disappointed by lower than expected grades. For many, though, the celebrations were short-lived as they tried to work out if they can now get on the courses they originally wanted. Let's start with our political correspondent, Simon Harris.
Charlene Oppia isn't having a great summer. Her Spanish holiday ended with enforced quarantine at home in Harrow. And then came her results. Not 3 A's as predicted, but 2 A's and a B. Not good enough to take up her place at Cambridge.
I'm so angry because not only is it unfair, but it's actually illogical because the subject I got a B in, I did not get lower than an A the entire year. And I got a 9 in it at GCSE and I got into Cambridge to study it. It was Spanish. So I know they did not look at me as an individual at all.
Protests in London at the weekend underlined the anger of students. Pressure on the government and the exam regulator Ofqual was growing. And when Conservative MPs also began to challenge ministers, something had to give.
These are students who worked really hard. It wasn't their fault that they weren't able to take the exam. And therefore, it seems to me that she shouldn't be marked down on the basis of an algorithm replicating an exam that she never actually were able to take.
This afternoon, the Education Secretary ditched the hated algorithm and went back to grades assessed by teachers.
Where there is quite obviously injustices, and we have seen that in this system, we have to act, and that's why we've had to make the decision that we have done.
It's right that the government has finally made this U-turn, but you can't mask the frustration and anger and distress that this has caused thousands of young people and their families.
So, 4 days after students got their results, leaving many not just disappointed but devastated, there is for some tonight a change of mood.
I am ecstatic. I'm so happy that I can get what I actually earned, and yeah, I'm really happy.
This is very good for our students because they can now trust that the grades that they have received, or the grades they will now receive, have been properly verified by teachers who knew them, who tracked them over 2 to 3 years.
The government's U-turn doesn't only apply to A-levels. This week's GCSE results will also rely on the judgment of teachers instead of a computer programme. Simon Harris, ITV News.
Good evening. When schools return in September and more commuters begin to head into the office, the morning rush hour, with social distancing still in place, was always going to be a pinch point. TfL published their initial plans today to prioritise students. The routes are being finalised, but on some of the busiest, every other bus will be only for pupils trying to get to school. It means commuters will sometimes have to wait longer for space on a bus. Our political correspondent Simon Harris reports.
London's buses are getting busier, and with social distancing has come a new frustration for passengers. The sign saying the bus is full. Double-deckers are only allowed to carry a maximum of 30 people. But in a matter of weeks, the bus network must cope with the end of the school holidays. Students and pupils made around 1.5 million bus journeys a day in London before lockdown. The new school term is a major test for transport bosses who've had to come up with a plan which combines mass transit with COVID security. So school children will be given priority to board every other bus on some busy rush hour routes. That means commuters can expect to wait longer. To free up more seats, TfL will waive social distancing rules on school buses. But pupils over the age of 11 must wear face coverings or masks. Josh, a South London teenager who's campaigning to keep free travel, reckons school children should be allowed to jump the queue at the bus stop.
Of course, because we are the leaders of tomorrow. You know, we are the next prime ministers, we are the next lawyers, we are the next mayors, we are the next, we are the future. So young people should be prioritised in education.
But not everyone is convinced the new rules will be fair.
It's okay for the school children who get on their bus, but I can't believe that the school children won't also get onto the buses meant for the commuters, which means that there will be essential workers who just simply won't be able to get to work.
Priority boarding at bus stops is a novel idea.
If it's in an area where there actually are a high density of school children, it makes sense.
I'm a school teacher I think it's unfair to deprive kids of being able to get in and out of school safely, and if they can travel together, that's possibly better.
What about those who got to go to work?
That's not good for the old people. They should have it all the time.
This September will see London's buses under pressure like never before at the start of a new term, which is why the Mayor and Transport for London would like pupils to abandon the bus and switch to walking, riding or using a scooter.
So Simon, any clarity on whether children will have to pay to use the buses?
Lucrezia, when Transport for London was given a government bailout of £1.6 billion to cushion the impact of coronavirus, it came with strings attached. One of them being that it must suspend the under-18s free travel perk. Now, while the Mayor, Sadiq Khan, wants fewer young people on the buses to create more room for essential workers, he's fiercely opposed to scrapping the perk. He says it's simply too complicated, and he and Transport for London haven't yet come up with a timetable or a plan to make it happen. So when the school term starts in September, free travel will exist, but for how much longer, we don't know.
All right, Simon, thank you. Next, after months of being told to avoid public transport, there is no avoiding the planned increase in how much it will cost to travel. Rail fares could increase by 1.6% next year, in line with inflation. And for Londoners using the tube, fares could go up even more as part of the terms of the government bailout for TfL. Our political correspondent Simon Harris reports.
Trains aren't always reliable, but there's one fixture in the railway timetable which is rarely late: the annual increase in ticket prices. And today, right on time, commuters were given a strong clue about how much fares will go up in January.
I think I might try and find something more local, or maybe try and find a job where I can work from home because of the price.
Right now, people are struggling, a lot of people are losing their jobs, and increasing the ticket will just cause, more havoc.
With what's going on at the moment, I think it should be dropping the prices down, in fact giving free travel to encourage people to go back into work. I own a cafe in central London and I've seen my business drop down by about 80 to 90%.
Based on July's inflation figure, rail fares are expected to go up by 1.6% in the new year. That means a season ticket from Redhill to Victoria will cost an extra £46.53. Maidenhead to Paddington will set commuters back an additional £52.42, and travelling from Southend to Liverpool Street will be almost £60 more. For some Londoners, the increase in prices could be even more than 1.6%. That's because bus fares and pay-as-you-go tube fares are calculated using a different formula, not pegged to inflation, but inflation plus another 1%. The additional hike is one of the conditions of the government's £1.6 billion rescue package to stop Transport for London going bust.
I would urge the government not to put up rail fares in January and to drop the condition in the TfL funding deal that requires the Mayor of London to put up fares.
Many commuters pay nothing at all at the moment because they're working from home. All of a sudden, the annual season ticket seems very yesterday, a once necessary evil that's no longer necessary.
So we're going to have a lot more part-time commuters coming into London, and what they need is part-time season tickets, including carnets, which are essentially little books of tickets that have to be used in a certain time frame.
Flexible season tickets are apparently on the way. They're just not here yet.
We realise that people don't necessarily want to go into London or into big cities 5 days a week. They're looking for more flexible tickets, and that's why the industry as a whole is developing flexible season tickets.
There is possibly one glimmer of hope for commuters. The government still hasn't finalised the figures, so January's fares increase isn't yet a done deal. Simon Harris, ITV News.
But first, with more of us holidaying in the UK because of the pandemic, it's been good for some parts of the country, but not for London. Hotels and B&Bs here have been left struggling as international tourists stay away and Brits head to the coast and the countryside. Our correspondent Simon Harris now on the difference between hotels in the capital and home counties.
It's not Marbella or Mallorca, but with Spain out of bounds, Surrey might be the next best thing. With the right weather, this luxury hotel and spa in Bagshot isn't a bad substitute for the Med, and it's proving to be a hot ticket among staycationers like Emma and Michael.
We were supposed to be with the kids in Mallorca this week, but we obviously couldn't do that and still wanted to do something, so we chose to stay in the UK and make the most of the British weather and enjoy ourselves here.
Yeah, definitely, and this place has got all the pools and the sun is shining at the moment, so yeah.
Pennyhill Park normally relies on weddings and conferences to help fill its rooms, but social distancing rules have hit that side of the business especially hard. So the staycation boom couldn't have come at a better time.
Since Spain went into quarantine, the phones have gone crazy and we're seeing a lot more families coming to stay. Our length of stay has increased, so people staying 2, 3, 4 nights instead of one and a half nights as an average.
But in the City of London, it's a very different story.
Yeah, very quiet at the moment.
Nick Whedon's company has 7 hotels in the capital. This one's close to Liverpool Street. It has more than 200 rooms, but 3/4 are empty.
I think after 15 weeks, people are looking for space and they're looking to be elsewhere, and that's obviously why the coastal and the rural locations are very, very popular.
A quick glance at London's tourist hotspots underscores the crisis. There are some sightseers, but the crowds of visitors normal at the height of summer have evaporated.
London hotels are subject to the sort of laws of the market. If the key attractions are closed, if people are not able to travel by public transport, if foreign visitors are having to quarantine when they come in, not a huge amount that London hotels can do.
Hotels need to be open and ready. We'll always work out what we can do to help support them, to help attract more tourists and customers for them. But it's important that people do come and use them.
Hotels in London might be staring into the abyss, but in the home counties, the COVID effect has delivered a welcome boost in homegrown holidaymakers. Simon Harris, ITV News, Bagshot.